President Obama sold his overhaul of health care and the financial sector as ways to revive the economy. Those laws combined were more than 2,000 pages long, not including thousands of additional pages in regulations, many not yet written. Businesses and citizens still don't know exactly how these changes will affect them. Washington correspondent Shannon Bream reports.
We've gotten sort of bogged down in this regulatory process.
Each time a federal law is passed, detailed regulations that outline how that law will be implemented are issued by the relevant agencies. But that often takes a great deal of time, especially when it comes to a 2,000-plus page bill like the president's new health care program or the Dodd-Frank bill passed last year, described as the biggest overhaul to the American financial regulatory system in history.
The worst part of all is that there's this gigantic uncertainty that is lingering. If you remember Sarbanes-Oxley, it took 2 years for regulators to issue all the rules that were included in the original regulation. According to experts, it's going to take at least 5 times longer to do this with the financial regulation bill alone. So that's 10 years before all the rules are written.
In fact, some regulations for the Patriot Act, first passed in 2001, still aren't finished. Most laws have built-in timeframes for getting regulations drafted, subjected to public comment, and then finalized, but those markers aren't always met.
It's hard to tell because a lot of these rules were going to be rolled out one after the other, and there were deadlines for some of them, and I know we've missed a lot of deadlines on both fronts of rules that were going to have to be written by a certain deadline. So it's really hard to tell. Plus, again, remember, we're talking probably about, just in the case of the financial regulation bill, 10 years to actually produce all of these rules. And so if half of them, miss their deadlines, we could be talking about much longer.
One of the problems with regulation is not always the regulation itself, but the slowness and complexity of the regulatory process.
Meanwhile, businesses are left in a holding pattern, unsure of how to move forward until they know how they'll be impacted. Dan Danner of the National Federation of Independent Businesses says small businesses, which operate on very tight margins, are especially worried about the unknown.
They don't know what the cost of their health care is going to be. They just know they're going to be mandated to provide something. They're going to be told what that is, and they have no idea what it's going to cost.
In the next 10 years, maybe more, investors, entrepreneurs, business owners are going to be in limbo and are not really going to know what rules are going to regulate their borrowing, their hiring, their anything that you need to do business.
Experts say while most businesses admit they dislike government regulation, they can deal with the requirements and red tape as long as they know what they're facing. Danner says when the government issues regulations in a timely fashion, the small businesses he represents can plan, invest, hire, and do their part to move the U.S. economy forward.
You wouldn't take that risk if you look at how many small businesses fail in the first 6 months or first year. So I think small businesses and entrepreneurs are inherently optimist. And so we look forward to the future, and our small business members do, and they're looking forward to things getting better and them creating jobs.
As for how the regulations tied to implementing the president's health care law are passing, the initial proposals have been drafted, but the final regulations won't be issued until 2015, if they're finished on schedule.
Coming up, reviving Main Street, the importance of small business, as 10 ways to save the economy continues after the news break.